Growth isn't always about adding more. Sometimes it's about removing what no longer serves your direction. And often, that means letting go of people, not out of hate, not out of drama, but out of clarity. The Stoics didn't avoid discomfort. They walked straight through it, especially when that discomfort came from cutting ties that blocked their evolution. Seneca said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you, not people who feel familiar, not people who keep you comfortable, but people who elevate your standards." Most of us know what's holding us back. We just don't want to face it when it has a face. It's the friend who always doubts your ideas, the partner who shrinks your confidence, the social circle that drains your focus and rewards your worst habits. But here's the truth. Growth demands space. And you can't create space when your life is overcrowded with people who were meant for an old version of you. This video isn't about cutting everyone off. It's about learning to outgrow what keeps you small and doing it without guilt. Because self-respect sometimes sounds like silence and feels like distance. You don't owe loyalty to who someone was, only to who they consistently are. And that's where most people get stuck. They say, "But we've known each other for years," or "They were there for me once," or worse, "They're not that bad." But here's the truth. Familiarity doesn't equal alignment. Just because you have history with someone doesn't mean they belong in your future. The Stoics didn't confuse sentiment with strategy. They understood that attachments based on comfort, not character, eventually become anchors. Epictetus taught that we must keep company with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. So ask yourself, do they challenge your growth, or do they resent it? Do they encourage your evolution, or mock it? Do they hold you accountable, or just hold you where you are? If every time you rise, they pull you back with subtle guilt, jokes masked as jabs, or emotional withdrawal, that's not support. That's sabotage in slow motion. Growth isn't personal, but it does get lonely. Because when you stop playing small, the people who preferred you small start to disappear. And that's okay. Because your future doesn't require their permission, only your decision. Growth isn't always a loud exit. Sometimes it's a quiet shift. You stop answering every message. You stop explaining your goals. You stop showing up for people who never asked how you're really doing. And that's not rudeness. That's refinement. Because one of the most stoic moves you can make is to let people misunderstand you while you protect your peace. Marcus Aurelius didn't beg people to approve of his direction. He acted from alignment, not apology. So here's what you need to ask. Are you still watering connections that have no root in respect? Are you still showing up out of guilt while your energy bleeds out? Are you still afraid that if you grow too far, they'll leave? And deep down, you know they probably should? Letting go isn't about rejection. It's about choosing rhythm over resistance. It's about realizing that your future doesn't fit in hands that still hold a version of you you've already outgrown. So stop asking, will they be hurt? Start asking, will I be whole if I stay? Because sometimes, outgrowing people is the most honest proof that you're finally growing yourself. Growth isn't always a loud exit. Sometimes, it's a quiet shift. You stop answering every message. You stop explaining your goals. You stop showing up for people who never asked how you're really doing. And that's not rudeness. That's refinement. Because one of the most stoic moves you can make is to let people misunderstand you while you protect your peace. Marcus Aurelius didn't beg people to approve of his direction. He acted from alignment, not apology. So here's what you need to ask. Are you still watering connections that have no root in respect? Are you still showing up out of guilt while your energy bleeds out? Are you still afraid that if you grow too far, they'll leave? And deep down, you know they probably should? Letting go isn't about rejection. It's about choosing rhythm over resistance. It's about realizing that your future doesn't fit in hands that still hold a version of you you've already outgrown. So stop asking, will they be hurt? Start asking, will I be whole if I stay? Because sometimes, outgrowing people is the most honest proof that you're finally growing yourself. You don't just lose time by holding on to the wrong people. You lose yourself. Your focus shifts from who you want to become to who you need to be in order to keep the connection alive. And little by little, you compromise. You laugh at things that don't align with your values. You tolerate conversations that drain you. You show up in spaces that shrink you, just to prove you're still loyal. But loyalty without alignment isn't strength. It's self-neglect. The Stoics knew this. They trained themselves to detach from anything or anyone that pulled them away from reason, clarity, or virtue. Seneca wrote, "Hang on to your youthful enthusiasms. You will be able to use them better when you are older." But toxic connections will kill that fire before it even grows. When you stay in relationships that don't reflect your future, you delay every version of yourself that could have already been born. You don't just stay stuck, you stall your evolution. And here's the worst part. Eventually, you stop blaming them and start blaming yourself for not being enough to make it work. But maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe the real problem is that you're trying to bloom in soil that was never meant to hold your roots. If you're training your mind like a warrior, hit subscribe. No hype, just discipline. There comes a point where staying loyal to the wrong people becomes disloyalty to yourself. Not every relationship is meant to survive your growth. Some were only meant to accompany you for a chapter, not your entire book. But here you are, still turning pages with someone who stopped reading you a long time ago. And deep down, you know it. The conversations feel forced. The laughs are lighter. The energy? Unreciprocated. But you stay, because the alternative feels like failure. But here's what the Stoics knew. Walking away isn't failure. It's discipline. It's realizing that protecting your mind is more important than protecting a memory. Epictetus taught, if someone is not good for you, don't make space for them. And if they leave your life, don't chase them. So stop chasing. Stop hoping they'll suddenly understand your path. They won't, because they weren't meant to walk it. Some people only love the version of you that stays small enough to keep them comfortable. But growth has no loyalty to your comfort zone, and neither should you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You already know who you need to let go of. You've known. But instead of acting, you've been bargaining with your gut, telling yourself they'll change, that it's not that bad, that you'll wait for the right moment. But there is no perfect moment to choose yourself. There is only now. Marcus Aurelius said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." You don't have time to waste. Not on small talk with people who mock your growth. Not on forced loyalty with those who don't value your direction. Not on editing yourself just to stay accepted. The longer you hold on, the heavier it gets. And eventually, what you're carrying becomes what's carrying you down. So stop spinning. Be still. And answer this. Honestly, are you actually loyal? Or just afraid of being alone with the version of you they never bothered to know? If your answer was yes, I'm afraid to be alone, that's not weakness. That's awareness. And awareness is the beginning of power. Because the moment you admit that you've been shrinking to stay connected, you finally give yourself permission to expand without apology. The Stoics never promised that growth would feel good. They just promised it would be right. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." And craving love from the wrong source will keep you emotionally bankrupt. So stop craving. Start choosing. Stop replaying the past. Start protecting your present. Because letting go isn't rejection, it's reconstruction. It's not about making them the villain. It's about making you the priority. And when you finally step away from what drains you, you don't just gain peace, you gain proof that you can survive without people who once convinced you that you couldn't. You don't need a dramatic exit. You just need a consistent decision, every day, to stop looking back and start walking forward, for real this time. Letting go isn't a one-time act. It's a mindset. It's waking up each day and choosing not to carry what weakens you. Choosing clarity over chaos. Choosing growth over guilt. Choosing your future over the comfort of a familiar cage. The Stoics didn't hold on to what didn't serve their path. They didn't beg for alignment. They lived it. Quietly. Consistently. And that's your next move. Not to burn bridges, but to stop crossing the ones that always lead you back to versions of yourself you've outgrown. It won't be easy. Some will guilt you. Some will question you. But your job is not to convince anyone. It's to become someone you're no longer willing to abandon. So let go. Not because you're heartless, but because you finally have the heart to honor your own evolution. You're not here to stay small so others stay comfortable. You're here to lead. And sometimes leadership starts with walking away.